I am 32 years old and I am a mother. My son Leo is 8. My daughter Maya is 6. Their father Mark has not been in their lives for a few years. It was a difficult separation. We were young and he made some very big mistakes. The biggest one landed him in jail for a while. It was a nonviolent offense, a stupid choice involving money, but it was enough to break us apart. When he got out, he moved a few states away to start over. He sends money when he can. He calls sometimes, but the distance has always been a wall between us. My mother, Carol, has been my rock through it all. She helps with the kids. She lives nearby. She always said she would do anything to protect us. I believed her. I thought her love was a fortress. I never imagined it was a cage. The day I found out began like any other Sunday. The kids were at my mom's house for the afternoon. I was supposed to pick them up after I finished some work. I finished early, so I decided to surprise them. I drove to her house. The front door was unlocked, as it often was. I stepped inside quietly. I wanted to hear them playing before they saw me. I heard my mom's voice coming from the living room. She was talking to Leo. Her tone was soft and sad. It was the voice she used when she was telling a serious story. I paused in the hallway, just out of sight. I did not want to interrupt a special moment between them. "Grandma, was my dad a bad man?" Leo asked. My heart squeezed. It was a question he had asked me before. I always tried to answer it honestly, but gently. I would tell him that his dad made a big mistake, but it did not make his whole heart bad. I told him that people are complicated. My mother did not say that. I heard her sigh, a long, mournful sound. "Oh, sweetie," she said, "your father was very troubled. He got into a lot of trouble with the wrong people." "Mommy said he went away," Leo said. His little voice was so full of confusion. "He did go away," my mother confirmed. "He went to a place for people who break the rules, a place called prison." I leaned against the wall. This was the part I had explained to Leo. I had told him Mark went to a correctional facility and now he was out and trying to fix his life. But then my mother kept talking. Her voice dropped lower, becoming a conspiratorial whisper. "It was a very dangerous place, Leo, and I'm so sorry to have to tell you this. But your father, he did not make it out. He passed away in there. It was a long time ago." The air left my lungs. I felt my knees go weak. I had to put a hand on the wall to keep myself from falling over. "Passed away." She said he passed away. Mark was not dead. He was very much alive. He had called me just last week to ask how Maya's dance recital went. We had talked for 20 minutes. He was living in Oregon. He was working at a warehouse. He was saving money, hoping to visit soon. "He's dead?" Leo whispered. I could hear the tears in his voice. "Yes, my love," my mother said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "It is a very sad secret. We did not want to hurt you with it. Your mommy is so fragile, you know. We have to protect her feelings. That is why we do not talk about him." I felt a wave of nausea. She was not just lying. She was building a fortress of lies. She was using my supposed fragility as a shield for her deception. She was poisoning my son's mind against his own father and against me. I felt a hot, bright anger flash through me. It was so intense it almost made me dizzy. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate, cruel act. I had to stop this. I had to confront her right now. I took a deep breath to steady myself. Then I walked into the living room. Leo was sitting on the floor, his face pale and tear-streaked. My mother was on the sofa, holding one of his hands. She looked up when I entered. Her face was a perfect mask of calm concern. "Anna, you are early," she said. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. I did not smile back. I looked from her to my son. I felt my heart break for him. "Leo, sweetie, can you go to the kitchen for a minute? I need to talk to Grandma alone," I said. My voice was shaking, but I tried to keep it even. Leo looked at me, then at my mother. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand and nodded. He scrambled to his feet and ran out of the room. I waited until I heard his footsteps fade down the hall. Then I turned to my mother. The mask was gone. Her eyes were hard and watchful. She knew I had heard. I could see it in the slight tightening of her jaw. "What did you just tell my son?" I asked. My voice was low and dangerous. She did not flinch. She just sat there, looking at me with an unreadable expression. "I was just comforting him. He was asking about his father," she said. "Comforting him?" I repeated. The word felt like acid on my tongue. "You told him his father is dead. You told him Mark died in prison." My mother's face remained passive. She gave a small, dismissive shrug. "It is simpler this way, Anna. It saves him the confusion and the heartache. What is the point of him waiting for a man who is never going to be a real father to him?" I stared at her, completely stunned by her coldness. Simpler. She thought it was simpler to kill a man in the minds of his children. "He is not dead, Mom. He is alive. He calls me. He asks about them. He wants to see them," I said, my voice rising with each word. "A phone call every few months does not make someone a father," she sniffed. "He abandoned you. He abandoned them. In my book, that is the same as being dead. I am just protecting them from a lifetime of disappointment." "You are not protecting them," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "You are lying to them. You are causing them pain." Leo was crying. "Did you see his face? You told him his father was dead." She stood up then, her expression turning from calm to annoyed. "Oh, do not be so dramatic, Anna. Children are resilient. He will get over it. It is for the best. He needs to move on. You all need to move on and forget about that man." I could not believe what I was hearing. She was not sorry. She was not even trying to pretend she was. She truly believed she had done the right thing. That was the most terrifying part of all. She felt justified. "I want you to tell him the truth," I demanded. "Right now. You are going to go in that kitchen and you are going to tell Leo that you made a horrible mistake and that his father is alive." My mother crossed her arms over her chest. A stubborn, defiant look settled on her face. "No," she said simply. "What do you mean, no?" I asked, my voice cracking. "I mean no," she repeated, her voice firm. "I will not confuse the boy. The story has been told. It is done. It is better for everyone if we just stick to it. He will forget about Mark in time." I felt a rage so pure and white-hot that it almost blinded me. This was my child. This was my life. And she was standing there, calmly telling me that she had rewritten our history and that we all had to live with it. I took a step toward her. I felt like I could scream for 1,000 years. "You do not get to decide that," I said, my voice trembling with fury. "You do not get to kill my children's father for your own convenience." She scoffed. "My convenience? I do everything for you. For those children. I am the one who is here every day, picking up the pieces that man left behind. I am the one who is a constant in their lives. I think I have earned the right to decide what is best for them." That was it. That was the moment I realized my mother was not my ally. She was not my support. She was a saboteur. She saw my family not as something to nurture, but as something to control. The lie about Mark was not about protecting the kids. It was about erasing him. It was about making her the only important figure in their lives, besides me. And by extension, it was about keeping me dependent on her. "Get out of my way," I said, my voice flat and cold. She looked surprised. "What?" she asked. "I am going to talk to my son," I said. "And I am going to tell him the truth. And then I am going to take my children home. And you are going to stay away from us." Her face paled. She had not expected this. She was used to me being compliant, to me being grateful. She was not used to me setting a boundary. "Anna, do not be ridiculous. You are overreacting," she said, trying to regain control. "I am not overreacting," I said. I am reacting appropriately to a massive, unforgivable betrayal. You lied to my son about his father's death. There is no coming back from that. I pushed past her and walked toward the kitchen. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I did not know how I was going to fix this. But I knew one thing for sure. My mother's control over my family was over. It ended today. I found Leo at the kitchen table, listlessly pushing a toy car back and forth. Maya was there too, drawing in a coloring book. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. "Mommy," she chirped. Leo did not look up. I knelt down in front of him. I gently put my hand on his arm. "Leo, honey, can we talk?" I asked. He finally looked at me. His eyes were red and swollen. "Is it true?" he whispered. "Is Daddy really gone forever?" I pulled him into my arms and held him tight. I could feel his small body shaking with silent sobs. I looked over his shoulder and saw my mother standing in the doorway, her face a thunderous mask of disapproval. I met her gaze and held it. I would not let her intimidate me. Not anymore. "No, baby," I whispered into Leo's hair. "No, it is not true. Grandma was wrong. She was very, very wrong." I spent the next hour in the kitchen with my children. I told them the truth. I explained that their father was alive and well. I told them he lived far away, but he thought about them all the time. I had to be careful with my words. I did not want to call my mother a liar directly in front of them. I did not want to put them in the middle of our war. So I said that Grandma had gotten confused. I said she had misunderstood something a long time ago. Leo was quiet for a long time. He just sat there, processing the information. Maya, being younger, was mostly just happy that her daddy was not gone. She asked if we could call him. I told her we could. I told her we would call him as soon as we got home. My mother stayed in the living room the whole time. I could feel her presence looming, even though I could not see her. When it was time to leave, I gathered the kids' things. I walked them to the front door. I did not say a word to my mother. I just walked past her as if she were a piece of furniture. As I was helping Maya with her shoes, my mother finally spoke. "Anna, can we please talk about this rationally?" she asked, her voice tight. I stood up and faced her. "There is nothing to talk about," I said. "You lied. You hurt my son. You tried to manipulate me. We are done here." "You are going to throw away everything I have done for you over one little mistake?" she asked, her voice rising in disbelief. "A little mistake?" I repeated incredulously. "You declared a man dead. You made my son grieve for a living person. That is not a little mistake, Mom. That is a calculated, cruel lie. And I have to wonder now what else you have lied about." Her face flushed with anger. "I have done nothing but love and support you," she insisted. "This is not love," I said, opening the front door. "This is control, and I will not let you control my family anymore. We need space, a lot of space. Do not call me. I will call you when I am ready." Without another word, I ushered my children out the door. I buckled them into their car seats. As I drove away, I did not look back. I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was furious. I was heartbroken. But underneath it all, there was a tiny flicker of something else. It was relief. The secret was out. The war had begun, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was the one in charge of my own life. When we got home, the first thing I did was call Mark. I had to tell him what happened. I sat on my bed, the door closed while the kids watched a movie in the living room. My hands trembled as I dialed his number. He answered on the second ring. "Anna, is everything okay?" he asked. His voice was filled with concern. I did not call him often, so he knew it must be important. I took a deep breath. "Mark, something has happened. Something with my mom," I began. I told him everything. I told him about walking in and hearing her tell Leo that he was dead. I told him about the confrontation. I told him about her complete lack of remorse. I just let it all pour out of me. When I was done, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, he spoke. His voice was dangerously quiet. "She what?" he said. "She told him you died in prison." I repeated, my own voice breaking. I heard him take a sharp breath. "That woman," he seethed. "I always knew she hated me. But to do that to her own grandson, to our son, that is sick. That is a whole new level of twisted." "I know," I whispered. "I do not know what to do. I told her to stay away from us, but she is so enmeshed in our lives. She is not going to just disappear." "Anna, this is not just about her being a liar," Mark said, his voice hardening. "This is about our kids. She has been emotionally abusing them. We have to stop her." He was right. This was not just a family squabble. This was something much more serious. My mother had deliberately inflicted emotional trauma on my child, and who knew for how long this had been going on? "What do you suggest?" I asked, feeling lost. "First, you need to document everything," he said. "Write down what you heard today. The date, the time, exactly what was said. Everything." "Okay," I said, grabbing a notebook and a pen. "Second, we need to think about how to handle the kids," he continued. "You did the right thing by telling them the truth immediately, but they are going to be confused. They are going to have questions. We need to be a united front for them." "Maya wants to talk to you," I told him. "Put her on," he said immediately. "Let me talk to both of them. Let them hear my voice. Let them know I am real and I am here." I went into the living room. The kids were curled up on the sofa. I paused the movie. "Hey guys," I said gently. "Daddy is on the phone. He wants to say hi." Maya's face lit up. Leo looked hesitant, still uncertain. I put the phone on speaker and set it on the coffee table. "Hey kiddos," Mark's voice said, warm and clear. "Daddy," Maya shouted, scrambling closer to the phone. "Hey, my little dancer," he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "Mommy told me you were amazing at your recital." "I was a butterfly," she told him excitedly. They chatted for a few minutes. It was so normal, so easy. It made my mother's lie seem even more grotesque in comparison. Then Mark's voice grew softer. "Leo, are you there, buddy?" he asked. Leo nodded, even though Mark could not see him. "I am here," he mumbled. "I hear there was some confusion today," Mark said gently. "I want you to know I am okay. I am alive and I think about you every single day. I am so sorry that you were told something so scary and sad. That was not true." "Grandma said you were gone," Leo said, his voice small. "I know she did," Mark said. "And I do not know why she would say something that is not true. But it is not. I promise you. I am here. And I love you very much." Leo was silent for a moment. Then he whispered, "I love you too, Daddy." I had to turn away to hide my tears. This was what my mother had tried to steal from them. This connection, this love. It was still there, fragile but real. And I would fight tooth and nail to protect it. After the kids had their chance to talk, I took the phone back into my room. Mark and I spoke for another hour. We made a plan. He was going to start calling regularly every Sunday night. We would set up video chats so the kids could see his face. He also said he was going to look into taking some time off work to come and visit. "I need to see them, Anna," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I need to look them in the eyes and let them know I am real. And I need to have a word with your mother." A cold dread filled me at the thought of a confrontation between Mark and my mom. But I knew he was right. She could not be allowed to get away with this. "Okay," I said. "Let us do it." The next few days were quiet. My mother, true to my word, did not call. She did not text. It was a strange, unsettling peace. I kept expecting her to just show up at my door, to try to force her way back into our lives. but she did not. I knew she was biding her time. She was probably expecting me to come crawling back to apologize for being so dramatic. She had no idea what was coming. I spent that week focusing on the kids. I watched them closely for any signs of distress. Maya seemed to be fine. For her, the whole incident was a strange story that ended with her getting to talk to her daddy on the phone. But Leo was different. He was quieter than usual. He was more withdrawn. One night, as I was tucking him into bed, he looked at me with his big, serious eyes. "Mommy," he said, "why did Grandma lie?" I sat on the edge of his bed. I had been dreading this question. "I do not know for sure, sweetie," I said honestly. Sometimes grown-ups think they are helping, but they end up making a big mess. Grandma loves you very much, but what she did was wrong. It was a very big mistake. "Is she going to lie again?" he asked. That question hit me like a punch to the gut. He was only 8, but he understood the core of the problem. Trust had been broken, and I did not have an easy answer for him. "I am going to make sure that she never, ever hurts you with lies again," I promised him. "You do not have to worry about that. I will protect you." He seemed satisfied with that answer. He snuggled under his covers and closed his eyes. But his question echoed in my mind long after he had fallen asleep. How could I protect them? How could I ensure my mother never did something like this again? A simple restraining order felt too extreme for a grandmother, yet what she had done was an extreme betrayal. I started digging. I went through old emails and text messages. I was looking for a pattern. I found countless messages from my mother over the years. They all had a similar theme. "Let me handle this, Anna. You are too emotional to deal with him. I will talk to the school. You just rest. I will make sure the kids do not have to hear about the nasty details." At the time, I had seen it as support. I had seen her as a buffer, protecting me and the kids from the difficult realities of our situation. But now, I saw it for what it was. It was a systematic campaign to isolate me, to take control of the flow of information, to make me dependent on her narrative. She had not just lied about Mark being dead. She had been curating our reality for years. I found an email from 3 years ago. It was from Mark to me. He was asking for photos of the kids. He said he missed them terribly. I never saw that email. I searched my inbox, my spam, my trash. It was not there. But when I logged into my email account on my laptop, I saw that it had been read and then deleted. The only person who had access to my laptop besides me was my mother. She used to borrow it sometimes to pay bills online for me when I was overwhelmed with the kids as a single parent. My blood ran cold. She had been intercepting his messages. She had been actively sabotaging my relationship with him and his relationship with his children. This was not a one-time lie. This was a long con. I picked up the phone and called my friend Sarah. I had to talk to someone who was outside of the family drama. I told her everything, from overhearing the lie to finding the deleted email. "Anna, this is insane," Sarah said when I was finished. "This is next-level manipulation. Your mom is not just overbearing. She is actively trying to control your life by cutting you off from the world." "I know," I said, my voice shaking. "I feel like my whole life for the past few years has been a lie orchestrated by her." "What are you going to do?" Sarah asked. "Mark is coming to town next month," I told her. "We are going to confront her together. But I need more than just my word against hers." "She will twist it. She will make me look like the crazy, ungrateful daughter." "You need proof," Sarah said. "Undeniable proof." She was right. I needed something that my mother could not talk her way out of. And I had a feeling I knew where to find it. My mother had an old desktop computer in her study. She was not very tech-savvy. She probably never deleted anything permanently. If she had been communicating with anyone about Mark, or if she had saved any of the emails she had intercepted, the evidence might still be on that computer. The problem was, how was I going to get access to it? I had not spoken to her in a week. I could not just waltz in and ask to use her computer. I needed a reason. I needed a plan. My opportunity came a few days later. My Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, called me. Anna, I have not heard from you in a while. Is everything all right? Your mother said you were not feeling well, she said. Of course. My mother was already spinning the story. I was the one who was unwell. I was the one who was unstable. I am fine, Aunt Carol, I said, keeping my voice even. Mom and I just had a disagreement. Well, I hope you can sort it out soon, she said. Listen, the reason I am calling is about Grandma's birthday. We are planning a small family dinner at your mom's house on Saturday. Can you and the kids make it? My first instinct was to say no. I did not want to see my mother. I did not want to pretend everything was normal. But then an idea began to form in my mind. A family dinner. My mother would be distracted. The house would be full of people. It was the perfect opportunity to slip into her study unnoticed. We would not miss it for the world, I said. The week leading up to the dinner was tense. My mother sent me a few texts. Looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. Let me know if you need me to pick up anything for the kids. I responded with short, polite answers. I did not give her an inch. I was playing a role now. The dutiful daughter. I had to make her believe that I was willing to sweep our disagreement under the rug for the sake of the family. Mark and I talked every night. We were a team now. He was horrified when I told him about the deleted email. It just strengthened his resolve. He booked his flight. He would be arriving the week after the party. Be careful, Anna, he warned me. Do not let her get in your head. She knows how to push your buttons. I know, I said, but this time I am ready for her. On the day of the party, I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I dressed the kids in their nice clothes. I put on a smile that felt like a mask. When we arrived at my mother's house, she greeted us at the door with a big fake smile of her own. Anna, you came, she exclaimed, hugging me tightly. It took all of my self-control not to flinch. Of course, Mom, I said, pulling away gently. We would not miss Grandma's birthday. The house was filled with my extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. They all greeted me warmly. No one seemed to know about the rift between my mother and me. She was putting on a masterclass performance of the happy, perfect family matriarch. I kept the kids close to me. I did not let them out of my sight. I did not want my mother to have a single moment alone with them. I could feel her watching me, her eyes following my every move. After dinner, people started mingling. My aunt brought out the birthday cake. Everyone gathered in the dining room to sing. This was my chance. I excused myself, saying I needed to use the restroom. Instead, I slipped down the hall to my mother's study. The door was closed. I turned the knob slowly. It was unlocked. I slipped inside and shut the door behind me, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was exactly as I remembered it. Bookshelves lined the walls. A big oak desk sat in the center. And on the desk was the old desktop computer. I moved quickly. I sat down and pressed the power button. The machine whirred to life with a loud groan. It was an ancient model. It took forever to boot up. Every second felt like an eternity. I kept listening for footsteps in the hall. Finally, the desktop appeared. I clicked on the email icon. It opened directly to her inbox. She did not have a password. Of course she did not. She probably did not even know how to set one up. I started searching. I typed Mark's name into the search bar. Dozens of emails popped up. My hands started to shake as I clicked on the first one. It was an email I had sent to my mother years ago, forwarding a message from Mark. In his message, he had been asking about setting up a regular visitation schedule. Underneath it was my mother's reply. But it was not to me. It was to her best friend, Martha. She had forwarded our entire exchange, and she had added her own commentary. Look at this nonsense, she had written. He thinks he can just waltz back into their lives whenever he wants. I will not let him disrupt the stability I have worked so hard to build for Anna and the children. I will handle it. I will tell him Anna is not ready. I felt a fresh wave of sickness wash over me. She had not just been deleting his emails to me, she had been actively responding to him, pretending to be me, or speaking on my behalf without my knowledge or consent. I kept digging. I found more emails. Emails to her sister, my Aunt Carol, complaining about how unstable Mark was, how he was a danger to the children. She was painting a picture of him as a monster, a deadbeat, a threat. And she was doing it behind my back, using my name and my pain as her weapons. Then I found the folder. It was labeled Family. Inside, there were subfolders, one for me, one for my brother, and one labeled Mark. I clicked on it. It was a treasure trove of her deception. She had saved screenshots of his social media profiles. She had saved copies of every email he had ever sent me, the ones I had seen, and the ones I had not. She had even written a document, a sort of timeline of his life after he left. It was full of her own twisted interpretations of his actions. Mark posted a picture with a new girlfriend. Clearly, he has forgotten all about his children. Mark got a new job. He is probably going to quit in a month, just like all the others. It was a file of pure character assassination, and at the very bottom there was a document titled The Narrative. I opened it. My blood ran cold. It was a list of talking points. It was a script. It detailed the story she had constructed about Mark. It started with his mistakes, twisting them into something far more sinister than they were. And it ended with his unfortunate passing. There were notes in the margins. Tell this part to Leo when he is older. Emphasize Anna's fragility to gain sympathy. Frame this as a protection, not a lie. This was not just a lie she had told on the spur of the moment. This was a premeditated, calculated, long-term strategy to erase a man from his children's lives. She had a playbook for her deception. I felt a terrifying clarity. My mother was more than just controlling. She was malicious. She was a puppeteer, and we were all her puppets. I knew what I had to do. I pulled a flash drive from my purse. I had brought it with me just in case. I quickly began to copy the entire Mark folder onto the drive. The files were small. It only took a minute. As the progress bar filled, I heard voices in the hallway. I quickly and quietly ejected the drive, shoved it deep into my pocket, and shut down the computer. I stood up, my legs feeling like jelly. I took a deep breath and opened the door. My cousin was walking down the hall. She smiled at me. "Hey, Anna. We were wondering where you went." "Time for cake." "I will be right there," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I walked back to the dining room. My mother was standing by the cake, a knife in her hand, a broad smile on her face. She looked at me, a question in her eyes. I just smiled back. It was the coldest smile I had ever given anyone. I had the proof. I had her script. And I was going to burn her entire stage to the ground. The rest of the party passed in a blur. I ate a piece of cake I did not taste. I made small talk I did not remember. All I could think about was the flash drive in my pocket. It felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric. It was a tiny piece of plastic, but it held the power to destroy the carefully constructed world my mother had built around us. When it was finally time to go, my mother hugged me at the door again. "I am so glad you came," she whispered in my ear. "I was so worried. I thought we were fighting." "We are not fighting, Mom," I said, my voice devoid of all emotion. "This is not a fight. This is a reckoning." She pulled back, a flicker of confusion in her eyes, but I did not give her time to respond. I just turned and walked away, leading my children to the car. That night, after the kids were asleep, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. I read through everything again, more slowly this time. The sheer scale of her deception was breathtaking. She had lied to everyone. She had lied to me, to Mark, to the kids, to her own sister. She had created a false reality and forced us all to live in it. I made copies of everything. I uploaded the files to a secure cloud storage account. I sent a copy to Sarah. and I sent a copy to Mark. He called me the moment he received them. He was speechless. He just kept saying, "Oh my God, Anna. Oh my God." "I know," I said. "It is so much worse than we thought." "That document?" he said, his voice filled with a mixture of horror and rage. "The narrative. She wrote a script for how to lie to our son. Who does that?" "A monster," I said quietly. "She is a monster wearing my mother's face." We talked for a long time that night. We refined our plan. The confrontation could not just be me and him against her. She would paint us as a disgruntled ex-couple ganging up on her. We needed an audience. We needed the family to be there. We needed them to see the proof for themselves. My Aunt Carol was the key. She was my mother's sister, but she was also a fair and decent person. She had always been kind to me. And according to the emails, my mother had been lying to her for years, feeding her a steady stream of poison about Mark. If I could get her on my side, the rest of the family might follow. The next day, I called my aunt. "Aunt Carol, can I talk to you about something important?" I asked. "It is about my mom." "Of course, dear. Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice full of warmth. "Not really," I said, "and I think you need to know the truth. Can we meet for coffee?" We met the next day at a small cafe. I was nervous. I did not know how she would react. I was about to blow up her image of her sister. I started at the beginning. I told her about what I had overheard. I told her about my mother's reaction. I saw the shock and disbelief on her face. "Carol would never do that," she said, shaking her head. "There must be some misunderstanding." "That is what I thought at first, too," I said. But then I found proof. I pulled out my tablet and showed her the files from the flash drive. I started with the emails my mother had sent her, the ones full of lies about Mark. I watched her face as she read her sister's words. Her expression shifted from disbelief to confusion, and then to a slow, dawning horror. "She told me he was threatening you," she whispered, looking up at me, her eyes wide. "She said he was unstable and that she was worried he would try to take the children." "He never did," I said. "He was just trying to be a father." She blocked him at every turn. Then I showed her the document. The narrative. I watched her read the bullet points, the cold, calculated instructions for how to deceive a child. When she was finished, she put the tablet down on the table. She looked pale. "I do not understand," she said, her voice trembling. "Why would she do this? Why would she invent such a horrible, cruel story?" "Because she needs to be in control," I said. "She needs me to be dependent on her. She needs the kids to see her as their only stable grandparent. She wrote Mark out of the story so she could be the hero." My aunt was silent for a long time. She just stared into her coffee cup. I could see the wheels turning in her head, reevaluating years of conversations, years of her sister's concerns and worries. Finally, she looked at me. There were tears in her eyes. "I am so sorry, Anna," she said. "I believed her. I never questioned her. I am so, so sorry." "It is not your fault," I said. "She fooled all of us." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Mark is flying in next week," I told her. "We are going to confront her, and we want you to be there. We want the whole family to be there." She nodded, her expression firming with a newfound resolve. "I will be there," she said, "and I will help you. We will set up another family dinner, at my house this time. We will get everyone there, and then you can tell them the truth. All of it." Having my aunt on my side was a huge relief. It felt like I was not fighting this battle alone anymore. We had an ally, and she was a powerful one. The next week was the longest of my life. I felt like I was living a double life. I was taking care of the kids, going to work, pretending everything was normal. But underneath, I was a bundle of nerves and anticipation. I was preparing for the biggest confrontation of my life. My mother called a few times. She was testing the waters. Her tone was cheerful, as if nothing had happened. Just calling to see how my grandbabies are doing, she would say. I kept my responses short and non-committal. They are fine, Mom. Are you still mad at me? She asked once, a hint of a whine in her voice. I am not mad, Mom, I said, my voice flat. We will talk soon. I was not mad. Mad was too small a word for what I felt. I was devastated. I was betrayed. And I was determined to get justice for my children. The day Mark was due to arrive, I was a wreck. I picked him up from the airport. We had not seen each other in person in over 4 years. It was awkward at first. We were two different people now, bound together by our children and a shared enemy. We went back to my apartment. The kids were with a babysitter. We needed to talk. We spent hours going over the plan for the dinner. It was scheduled for Saturday night at my aunt's house. She had told everyone it was a last-minute get-together to celebrate the start of summer. My mother had no idea what was waiting for her. Mark was a different man than the one I remembered. He was calmer, more mature. The recklessness of his youth had been replaced by a quiet intensity. He was furious at my mother, but he was channeling that fury into a focused determination. I am not going to yell at her, he said. I am not going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me lose my temper. We are going to be calm. We are going to be factual. We are going to present the evidence and let her hang herself with her own lies. His composure helped to steady my own nerves. He was right. We had to be the sane ones in the room. We had the truth on our side. We did not need to resort to hysterics. The 2 days before the dinner were spent preparing the kids. We sat them down together. Mark was there, in person. It was a lot for them to take in. Maya was thrilled. She just wanted to play with her daddy. Leo was more reserved. He was watching Mark, studying him, trying to reconcile the real man in front of him with the ghost his grandmother had created. Mark was amazing with them. He was patient and gentle. He did not push. He just let them come to him at their own pace. He answered their questions honestly. He told them about his job, his apartment, his life. He showed them pictures. He was real. And slowly, I could see the wall around Leo's heart beginning to crumble. On Saturday night, we drove to my aunt's house. Mark, me, and the kids. A family. It felt strange and new. My stomach was in knots. This was it. There was no turning back. When we walked in, the house was already full. My mother was there, holding court in the kitchen. When she saw Mark, her face went white. For a split second, she looked like she had seen a ghost. It was a deeply satisfying moment. Then her training kicked in. Her expression hardened. She plastered on a tight, angry smile. Well, well, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Look what the cat dragged in. A few of my relatives looked at Mark with suspicion and hostility. They only knew my mother's version of him. They saw him as the deadbeat who had abandoned his family. My Aunt Carol stepped forward, placing a calming hand on my mother's arm. Carol, please, she said. We are all here to talk. Let us go into the living room. My mother shook her off, her eyes blazing. There is nothing to talk about, she snapped. This man is not welcome in my family's home. This is my home, Carol, my aunt said, her voice firm. And he is welcome here. Now, we are all going to sit down and listen. Anna has something she needs to share with us. Reluctantly, my mother followed us into the living room. The rest of the family trailed behind, their faces a mixture of confusion and curiosity. They knew something was wrong. The air was thick with tension. We all sat down. I was on the sofa, with Mark on one side and the kids on the other. My mother sat in an armchair opposite us, her arms crossed, her face like stone. My aunt stood by the fireplace, a silent pillar of support. I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking, so I clasped them in my lap. I looked around at the faces of my family, my uncles, my cousins, people I had known my whole life, people who had been fed a diet of my mother's lies. Thank you all for being here. I began, my voice trembling slightly. I know this is sudden, but there is something important you all need to know. For the past several years, my mother has been lying to us. To all of us. My mother scoffed loudly. Oh, here we go. The ungrateful daughter act. I give you everything, and this is the thanks I get. I ignored her. I kept my eyes on my aunt, on my family. She has been lying about Mark, I continued. She has been painting him as a villain, as a danger to our family. She has intercepted his emails. She has spoken on my behalf without my permission. She has done everything in her power to erase him from our lives. He erased himself when he went to prison. My mother spat. That is not the worst of it, I said, my voice growing stronger. A few weeks ago, I overheard her telling my son, her grandson, that his father was dead. She told Leo that Mark died in prison. A collective gasp went through the room. Several people turned to stare at my mother. Her face was turning a blotchy red, but she held her ground. It was a misunderstanding, she insisted. The boy was asking questions, and I tried to simplify a complicated situation. Anna is blowing this all out of proportion, as usual. It was not a misunderstanding, Mom, I said, my voice cold as ice. It was a calculated lie. It was part of a script you have been following for years. This was the moment. I nodded to my aunt. She had connected my tablet to the large television screen on the wall. With a press of a button, the screen came to life. And there it was, for everyone to see. The document. The narrative. I watched as my family read the words on the screen. The bullet points. The talking points. The cold, cruel instructions for how to manipulate a child's grief. I could hear their shocked whispers. I could see the dawning horror on their faces. I then had my aunt click through the other files, the emails my mother had sent to her, full of slander about Mark, the screenshots of his social media with her nasty, judgmental comments, the forwarded conversations where she plotted to keep him away from his children. It was all there, in black and white. Her own words, her own thoughts, laid bare for everyone to see. There was nowhere for her to hide. When the last document had been shown, a heavy silence fell over the room. No one knew what to say. They just stared at my mother, their expressions a mixture of pity, disgust, and betrayal. My mother was shaking. Her face was pale, her lips pressed into a thin white line. She looked from the screen to me. Her eyes filled with a venomous hatred. You did this, she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. You went behind my back. You snooped through my private things. You twisted my words. Those are your words, Mom, I said quietly. Every single one of them. There is no twisting them. They are as clear as day. You lied. You manipulated. You hurt my children. You hurt me. You hurt everyone in this room who ever trusted you. My uncle, her brother-in-law, finally spoke. Carol, is this true? He asked, his voice heavy with disbelief. Did you really tell that little boy his father was dead? My mother looked at him, desperately searching for an ally, but his face was hard, unforgiving. She looked around the room at the faces of her family. She saw no sympathy. She saw only judgment. Her composure finally cracked. The mask of the strong matriarch shattered, and all that was left was a bitter, cornered woman. I did it for them, she shrieked, pointing a shaking finger at me and the kids. I did it to protect them. From him, he is a criminal, a failure. He would have only brought them more pain and disappointment. I did what any loving mother and grandmother would do. A loving grandmother does not invent a father's death, Mark said, speaking for the first time. His voice was calm, but it cut through the room like a knife. A loving grandmother does not deliberately cause a child that kind of trauma for her own selfish reasons. He stood up and walked to the center of the room. He looked directly at my mother. You did not do this for them, Carol, he said. You did this for you. You could not stand the thought of anyone having a place in their lives that you could not control. You wanted to be their whole world. You tried to erase me because you saw me as a threat to your power. He paused, letting his words sink in. But you failed, he said. You failed because love is stronger than your lies. My children know I am alive. They know I love them, and they know that you are the one who hurt them, not me. My mother just stared at him, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. She had no response. There was nothing she could say. The evidence was irrefutable. Her own words had condemned her. My Aunt Carol walked over to her sister. Her face was filled with a deep, profound sadness. I think you should go, Carol, she said softly. My mother looked at her, aghast. You are kicking me out? You are taking their side against your own sister? This is not about sides, my aunt said, her voice shaking with emotion. This is about what is right, and what you did was wrong. It was cruel and unforgivable. I need time to process this. I think we all do. My mother looked around the room one last time, her eyes pleading. But no one would meet her gaze. She had lost her audience. Her kingdom had crumbled. With a strangled sob, she grabbed her purse and fled from the room. We heard the front door slam shut behind her. And then there was only silence. The aftermath was quiet and somber. My family, one by one, came up to me and Mark. They apologized. They said they had no idea. They offered their support. It was a strange, hollow victory. I had won. I had exposed her, but my family was broken. The most important conversation, however, happened on the car ride home. The kids had been quiet through the whole ordeal, watching the adults with wide, uncertain eyes. In the back seat, Leo leaned his head against the window. So, Grandma lied a lot, he said. It was not a question. It was a statement. Yes, sweetie, I said, my heart aching for him. She did. Is that why we are not going to see her anymore? He asked. We need to take a break from Grandma for a while, I said. What she did was not okay. And until she understands that and says she is sorry, we need to keep our distance to stay safe. He was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at Mark, who was sitting in the passenger seat. Are you going to go away again? He asked. Mark turned around to face him. He reached back and put a hand on Leo's knee. I am not going away, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I have to go back home to Oregon for my job, but I am going to call you every week, and I am going to visit as often as I can. I promise. No more secrets. No more lies. From now on, we are all going to be honest with each other. Leo seemed to accept that. He leaned back in his seat and was quiet for the rest of the ride. But it was a comfortable quiet. It was the quiet of a question that had finally been answered. In the weeks that followed, we began to build our new normal. Mark stayed for another week. He spent every day with the kids. They went to the park. They got ice cream. They watched movies. He was not a ghost or a villain. He was just their dad. It was beautiful and heartbreaking to watch. My mother did not contact me. I heard through my aunt that she was telling everyone that I had turned the family against her, that Mark had brainwashed me. She was playing the victim. It was the only move she had left, but no one was buying it. Her credibility was shot. She had been exposed. The narrative was no longer hers to control. The day Mark left was hard. The kids cried. I cried. But it was different this time. It was not the hopeless goodbye of the past. It was a, see you later. It was a promise. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat alone in my quiet living room. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother, the first one since the confrontation. I hope you are happy. It read, You have destroyed this family. I stared at the message for a long time. The old me would have been racked with guilt. The old me would have felt responsible for her pain. But the old me was gone. I typed out a reply. My hands were steady. My heart was calm. I did not destroy our family, Mom, I wrote. You did, with your lies, The family you see now, the one that is being rebuilt on honesty and trust, is a family you are not a part of. Not until you take responsibility for the damage you have caused. I hit send, and then I blocked her number. It was not a happy ending. It was a messy, painful, complicated ending, but it was a real one. We were no longer living in the carefully crafted fiction my mother had written for us. We were living our own story now. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt free. The weight of her control was gone. The air was clearer. I could finally breathe. My children were safe. They had a father. And I had found my voice. That was a foundation I could build on. A real one. An honest one. And it was all mine. Life without my mother's constant presence was strange at first. It was like a background noise I had grown so accustomed to that its absence was deafening. There were no more unsolicited visits, no more passive-aggressive texts, no more little suggestions on how to raise my children. The silence was unnerving for about a day. Then it became peaceful. I found myself making decisions without running them through the filter of what she would think. I dressed the kids in clothes she would have called messy. I let them have dessert before dinner one night just because. I was reclaiming my own authority as a parent, an authority I had not even realized I had surrendered. Aunt Carol became my main point of contact with the rest of the family. She would call to check in, her voice always laced with a gentle concern. "How are you holding up, Anna?" She asked about a month after the confrontation. "I am okay," I told her, and I was surprised to find that I meant it. "We are okay. The kids are doing well. They have their video chats with Mark every Sunday. Leo is starting to open up more about his feelings." "That is wonderful to hear," she said. There was a pause. I knew what was coming. Have you heard from your mother?" "No," I said simply. I blocked her number. She sighed. "I thought so. She's been calling me, and your Uncle Robert. She is not doing well, Anna. She is lost. She says she has nothing left." I felt a pang of something, but it was not guilt. It was a distant, clinical pity. "She has what she built for herself," I said. "An empty house full of lies. She can lie to herself if she wants to, but she is not going to lie to me or my children anymore." "I know, dear. You did the right thing," my aunt said. "It is just hard to watch. She is my sister. I see her unraveling, and I do not know how to help her." "She does not want help," I said. "She wants control, and when she could not have it, she chose to burn everything down. The only person who can help her now is herself. She needs to admit what she did." My aunt knew I was right. We talked for a few more minutes, and then we hung up. I thought about what she had said. My mother, lost and alone. The image should have made me sadder than it did. But all I could feel was a profound sense of relief that her chaos was no longer my chaos. Her storm was no longer my storm to weather. Mark and I fell into a comfortable co-parenting routine. The distance was still a challenge, but we were a team. We made decisions together. We talked about school, about discipline, about the kids' hopes and dreams. He sent them packages, little gifts, and letters. He was a consistent, positive presence in their lives. He was becoming the father he had always wanted to be, now that he was free from my mother's interference. One evening, about 2 months after the showdown, I was putting Maya to bed. She was snuggled under her covers, her eyes sleepy. "Mommy," she whispered, "I miss Grandma." My heart tightened. This was the part I had been worried about. The kids loved my mother. Despite everything, she had been a huge part of their lives. "I know, sweetie," I said, stroking her hair. "It is okay to miss her." "Why can't we see her?" she asked. "Is she still in a timeout?" I had to smile at that. "Yes, you could say that. She is in a very long timeout, because she told a very big lie and hurt a lot of people, and she has not said she is sorry yet." "Oh," Maya said, her little brow furrowed in thought. "When she says sorry, can we see her again?" That was the million-dollar question. What would I do if my mother ever did apologize? A real, genuine apology, not a manipulative attempt to regain access. Could I ever trust her again? We will see, baby, I said. Let's just take it one day at a time. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. It was a thick envelope, and I recognized my mother's spidery handwriting immediately. My first instinct was to throw it away, unopened. But my curiosity got the better of me. I waited until the kids were asleep. Then I sat at my kitchen table and opened it. It was a long letter, several pages long. It was not an apology. It was a manifesto. It was a rambling, self-pitying tirade about how I had betrayed her, how I had been ungrateful, how Mark had poisoned my mind against her. She recounted every sacrifice she had ever made for me, every favor, every bit of help. She painted herself as a martyr, a saint who had been cast out by her wicked daughter. Reading it, I did not feel anger. I felt a profound sense of closure. This was who she was. She was incapable of seeing what she had done. She was trapped in her own narrative, the one where she was always the hero, always the victim. She would never change. I did not reply to the letter. I did not need to. It had given me the final answer I needed. There was no going back. The door was closed, not just by me, but by her own inability to see beyond herself. The first holiday season without her was strange. She had always made a huge deal about Christmas. The house was always perfectly decorated. The dinner was always a massive, elaborate affair. This year, it was just me and the kids. Mark was going to video call in the morning, but he could not get the time off work to fly out. I was worried it would be a sad, empty day for the kids, but it was not. It was quiet. It was simple. It was ours. We made pancakes in our pajamas. We opened presents slowly, taking the time to enjoy each one. We watched holiday movies and built a fort in the living room. There was no pressure. There was no performance. There was just peace. That evening, after the kids were in bed, I sat by the light of the Christmas tree. I thought about the year that had passed. It had been the hardest year of my life, but it had also been the most important. I had lost a mother, but I had found myself. I had found my strength. I had reclaimed my family. My phone rang. It was Aunt Carol. "Merry Christmas, Anna," she said. "Merry Christmas, Aunt Carol," I replied. "I just wanted to call and see how you were," she said. "I know today must be difficult." "It was actually nice," I admitted. "It was quiet." "Good," she said. "I am glad." There was a pause. "I saw Carol today, at church. She asked about you, about the kids." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her you were doing well," she said. "And I told her that if she ever wants to see her grandchildren again, she needs to start with a real, honest apology. Not to me, not to the family, to you, and to Mark, and to the children." "What did she say?" I asked, holding my breath. "She did not say anything," my aunt said sadly. "She just turned and walked away." And that was that. I knew then that Maya's question would likely never have to be answered. An apology was not coming. My mother had made her choice. She had chosen her pride over her family. She had chosen her lies over love. I hung up the phone and looked around my quiet, peaceful living room. It was not the perfect magazine-worthy Christmas my mother would have created, but it was real. And it was enough. It was more than enough. We were going to be okay. We already were.